Hey everyone, welcome! We're about to go on a journey, a deep dive into the soul of Japan. We're going to explore the incredible story that has shaped this truly unique nation.
You know, like all the best legends, this one kicks off with a real sense of wonder. I mean, that line right there, it just sets the stage perfectly, doesn't it? It tells us this story is going to be about so much more than just history. It's about spirit, it's about myth.
And that really is the big question for us today, right? How does a legend, a creation story, an ancient belief system, and, centuries of struggle and success, how does all of that forge the soul of the nation we see today? Okay, let's get into it.
So to start, we're not cracking open a history book. No, we're heading into the realm of the divine, because the absolute foundation of Japan's identity, it's all tied to this powerful idea that the land itself is sacred.
And this beautiful myth, it was so much more than just a fairy tale for the early Japanese people. It was a promise that everything, every mountain, every river, every single cherry blossom, held the breath of the gods. This belief, this idea of a sacred homeland, that's really the very first thread in the tapestry of the Japanese soul.
All right, so from that divine promise, how did this distinct, powerful culture actually emerge? Well, over centuries, Japan forged these core pillars of its identity, and they were really defined by three things: emperors, incredible art, and of course, the rise of a legendary warrior class.
See, the emperor, he wasn't just a political ruler. It was so much deeper than that. It was spiritual. As a direct descendant of the sun goddess Amaterasu, he was seen as a living link to the gods. He was like the spiritual center of gravity for the entire culture.
And man, you can really see this identity just evolve so dramatically over time. First, you've got the Heian era, this golden age of art and poetry where elegance was everything. Then, boom, a huge shift to the Kamakura era, where the warrior class, the samurai, take over. And then, after all that turbulence, Japan does something incredible. It closes its doors for over 200 years in the Edo era, a period of total peaceful isolation.
And what's so fascinating is this duality it creates, On one hand, you have the courtier, obsessed with beauty and poetry. This is the era that gave us the world's first novel, The Tale of Genji. Then, on the other hand, you have the warrior, whose entire life is defined by a strict code of honor. These two ideals, the brush and the sword, existing side by side, that's absolutely fundamental to understanding the Japanese spirit.
And at the absolute heart of that warrior ideal was Bushido, the way of the warrior. Now, this wasn't just some rule book for fighting. No way. It was a complete philosophy for how to live and how to die. We're talking unwavering loyalty, a sense of honor so deep that disgrace was literally worse than death, and just this incredible courage and patience. For a samurai, the sword wasn't just a weapon, it was the spirit of the soul. And believe me, those values would echo through Japanese society for centuries.
So, imagine this. 2 centuries of quiet, peaceful, inward development. Japan has built this perfect, self-contained world. But that world was about to face a shock, a collision that would change absolutely everything, forever.
Really try to picture it. For over 200 years, while the rest of the world is going through the Industrial Revolution and all this colonization, Japan is basically a time capsule. It's preserving and perfecting its own incredible culture, kabuki theater, woodblock prints, all of it. It was this beautiful, fragile piece built on this one big assumption, that it could stay separate forever.
And then, they showed up. Western ships on the horizon. Just like that, the long silence was shattered. Japan couldn't be alone anymore. The outside world was knocking on the door, and it was about to kick it down. And the impact, honestly, you can't overstate it. The entire foundation of their society, their economy, their whole sense of who they were, it was all shattered. Everything was up in the air. A period of incredibly fierce, unbelievably rapid change was about to begin.
What happened next was the Meiji Restoration, and it was one of the fastest, most mind-blowing periods of modernization the world has ever seen. The whole social order was turned upside down. Samurai had to give up their swords. Their entire way of life just vanished almost overnight. In its place, railroads cutting through ancient land, factories popping up everywhere. In just a few decades, Japan went from a feudal society to a massive industrial and military power. But here's the tragic turn. This desperate push for strength, this fear of being dominated, well, it turned into an ambition to dominate others. And that expansionist drive, it led Japan down a very dark path, right into World War II and the absolute devastation of Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
So from total devastation, a nation literally in ashes, comes one of the most incredible stories of resilience you will ever hear. The whole story shifts right here, from tragedy to just unbelievable hope.
So the question is, how on earth did they do it? How did they pull off this miracle? Well, the answer seems to lie in those same core values we've been talking about all along. That old samurai discipline, it was channeled into working tirelessly. That deep sense of unity, it brought everyone together to rebuild. And they did it with this quiet humility and an intense sense of purpose. And the result? Japan went from ruins to an economic powerhouse in just a handful of decades. Absolutely amazing. And all of that brings us to today. Modern Japan is this fascinating mix of its entire journey. You know, it's a place where the ancient past and the supermodern future, they're not fighting each other. They're actually in conversation. And you can see that conversation everywhere. Just look. You've got the total serenity of a Zen garden in Kyoto, and then just a train ride away, you have the crazy, neon-lit energy of Tokyo. You have those ancient samurai values of respect and politeness being practiced on a high-speed bullet train. It's this incredible balance that really defines the soul of Japan today.
And you know, through all that change, all that upheaval, at its core, the soul is still there. You can find it in this deep appreciation for fleeting beauty, perfectly symbolized by the cherry blossoms, the sakura, which bloom for just a short, beautiful time. It's this constant reminder that life is short, and because of that, it's precious. That's the emotional heart of it all. That's what endures.
So we're left with this one big thought. How does a nation honor its soul while racing full speed into the future? Japan's story is really one of constant rebirth, of holding on to tradition while grabbing innovation with both hands. Their journey is just this powerful reminder, isn't it? That a nation can change, it can suffer, and it can rise stronger than ever, all without losing the very soul that makes it who it is.